Hello, everyone. Today, I want to share a story with you. A very personal story, but one that I believe resonates with many of us. It's the story of my journey to rediscover self-confidence. I used to live in the shadows of self-doubt. Can you imagine it? A life where the first thing I thought about every morning was, am I going to mess something up today? Every time someone asked for my opinion, my heart would pound, and my default answer was always, let someone else do it. I'm not good enough. I feared every glance, every judgment. This fear was so paralyzing that I withdrew, rejecting every opportunity to express myself simply because of an invisible dread called not good enough. I remember vividly, there was a time my boss assigned me an important project. Instead of feeling excited, I felt overwhelmed by pressure. I stayed up late, worked tirelessly, but constantly questioned, am I worthy of this opportunity? Will I disappoint everyone? My hands trembled as I typed the first lines on the keyboard. I felt as if every eye in the office was on me, though in reality, no one was paying attention. And so, my initial ideas, however promising, were extinguished by the fear of being ridiculed, deemed naive, or inexperienced. The result was a project that, while completed, lacked any breakthrough, any unique mark of my own. Why? Because I didn't dare to believe in myself, didn't dare to put forward the bold ideas I harbored, didn't dare to take risks and step out of my comfort zone. That fear was greater than my desire for success. I also recall a gathering with friends. Everyone was chatting animatedly, telling funny stories, sharing interesting experiences. I sat there, desperately wanting to contribute, wanting to talk about my recent trip or a movie I'd just seen. But then, I'd think, is my story good enough? Will anyone care? Or will they find me boring? So, I stayed silent. The feeling of being left out, isolated even among close friends, was truly painful. Each time that happened, I further reinforced the false belief that I had nothing valuable to share, that I wasn't interesting or engaging. The vicious cycle continued, pulling me deeper and deeper into the abyss of self-doubt. But then, one day, I asked myself, am I going to live like this forever? Am I going to let fear control my life? The answer, of course, was no. The pain of self-doubt had become too great. It surpassed even the fear of change. I realized it was time to change. Not for anyone else, not to please my boss or my friends, but for myself, for the life I deserve to live. A life where I could be myself, express myself, and embrace every opportunity without being bound by the chains of insecurity. It was a moment of epiphany, a glimmer of light in the darkness. The first step, also the most challenging, was to recognize and confront my fears. It's like turning on a light in a dark room to see what's lurking there, and only then knowing how to clean it up. I began to question myself. Why am I so lacking in confidence? Is it because of past criticisms from a teacher, a friend, or even a family member? Or is it because I constantly compare myself to perfect people on social media, those dazzling images that don't reflect the whole truth? I discovered that most of my fears stemmed from negative thoughts haunting my mind. They whispered in my ear every day, I'm not good enough, I'll fail, others will laugh at me, I'm useless. These thoughts repeated themselves like a vicious cycle, eroding my spirit and willpower, turning me into a smaller, weaker version of myself. They were like little demons, growing from doubt and fear, until they became giant barriers, preventing me from moving forward. I decided to write down all those negative thoughts. Sounds strange, right? Who wants to write down bad things about themselves? But when you put them on paper, you'll find they're not as scary as they are when they lurk in your head. They become tangible, and then you can face them. I started to challenge each thought. For example, with, I'm not good enough, I asked myself, is there any evidence that this is true? Or is it just a feeling? I realized that, often, there was no concrete evidence at all. Just fear. Most of our fears are stories we tell ourselves, stories that are not real. After identifying the enemy, my own negative thoughts, I began to rebuild from within. This was like building a new house, from the foundation to the roof, brick by brick. First was self-acceptance. This wasn't just about saying I accept myself, but a deep, practical process. I learned to cherish my strengths and accept my flaws. I no longer tried to be a copy of someone else, no longer wanted to imitate someone's way of speaking or dressing. I began to understand that I am a unique individual with my own inherent worth. I started writing down the things I do well, no matter how small: cooking a delicious meal, completing a task on time, or simply listening genuinely to a friend. You know, when you start acknowledging those little things, you'll find you're worth so much more. It's like discovering hidden gems within yourself and beginning to see their sparkling light. Next was changing my inner monologue. This is a very powerful exercise. Instead of saying, I can't do it, I started saying, I'll do my best. Instead of, I'm afraid of failure, I said, I'll learn from my mistakes. Instead of, I'm incompetent, I said, I'm on a journey of self-improvement. This small shift in how I spoke to myself brought immense power. It was like a tonic for my spirit, helping me become more optimistic and positive. Whenever a negative thought appeared, I immediately caught it and replaced it with a positive one. Gradually, positive thoughts became a habit, and those negative voices in my head slowly faded, then disappeared. I also began to set small, achievable goals. Before, I used to set overly ambitious goals, and when I didn't reach them, I'd become even more self-conscious. Now, I started with simple things. Today, I'll finish this report before lunch. Today, I'll walk for 30 minutes. Today, I'll read a chapter of a book. When I achieved these small goals, the feeling of success, however tiny, was enough to create momentum and belief. It's like building a tower. Each brick laid correctly creates stability. With each accomplished goal, I felt a little stronger, a little more confident. That feeling fueled me to conquer bigger goals. Self-confidence doesn't just come from positive thinking. It also comes from action. You can't just sit still and expect confidence to knock on your door. You have to get up and move. I started taking better care of myself. This was an aspect I often neglected. Before, I used to stay up late working, eat carelessly, and hardly exercise. But then I realized that physical and mental health are closely intertwined. When my body was healthy, my mind also became clear and full of energy. I started getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, eating more vegetables and fruits, and especially exercising regularly for 30 minutes every day. At first, I found it very difficult, but gradually, exercising became an indispensable part of my routine. I felt less tired or depressed, and that helped me face challenges more easily. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw a healthier, more vibrant version of myself, and that naturally boosted my confidence. I also actively learned and developed new skills. I realized that self-doubt sometimes stems from feeling a lack of knowledge or capability. So, I took a soft skills course, read books on topics I was interested in, and even learned a new language. I remember the first time I confidently presented in English to a small group of colleagues, something I never dared to imagine before. When I felt I had knowledge and skills, I automatically felt more confident in communicating and working. It's a wonderful feeling when you know you can do something, and you have the tools to solve problems. Knowledge is power, and that power reinforces confidence. And most importantly, I started to practice communication and self-expression. This was the most challenging part, but also the most rewarding. I no longer avoided meetings or group discussions. I started with simple conversations with colleagues during breaks, practicing speaking clearly and making eye contact. Then gradually, I became bolder in meetings. The first time I spoke up in a large meeting, my hands still trembled, my voice still wavered slightly, and I even stumbled over a few words. But when I finished and received nods of agreement, I felt a strange sense of relief and pride. The feeling that I had overcome a huge barrier. After each such occasion, I gained more courage to do better next time. I learned that expressing yourself doesn't mean you have to be perfect from the start, but that you dare to begin, dare to try, dare to make mistakes, and dare to learn. I also sought out and built a positive environment. I realized that the people around me greatly influenced my mood and confidence. I gradually spent more time with friends who always believed in and encouraged me, people who always saw potential in me, even when I didn't. I limited contact with those who judged or put others down, or those who constantly complained about everything. Our surrounding environment greatly affects our energy and mindset. When you're surrounded by positive people, you also become more positive. The journey to boost self-confidence is not a straight path, nor is it something that can be achieved overnight. There will be times when you feel discouraged, days when you doubt yourself again, feeling like you haven't changed at all. I've had those moments too. There were times I felt like I was back at square one, sinking back into old fears. But the important thing is to persevere. Remember that every small step forward, no matter how tiny, is a victory. Don't be too hard on yourself. Treat yourself with kindness and compassion, just as you would a close friend. Self-confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about daring to act despite the fear. It's about understanding that you might fail, you might make mistakes, but that doesn't define your worth. Your worth lies in your courage to get back up after a stumble, to learn from your mistakes, and to keep moving forward. Start today. Start by believing in yourself, because you, and only you, determine your own worth. You deserve to live a fulfilling, confident, and happy life. Don't let fears or negative voices hold you back any longer. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, I can do it. I am good enough. I am worthy, because that is the truth.